Hi, this is Rob Sheen with the Source Conference, and I'm here with Joe Gray, who's going to be speaking at Source Boston 2018 on May 9th and 10th. Joe's talk is on phishing. It's not just for pen testers, and using phishing to build a successful awareness program. So welcome to the program, Joe.
Thanks for having me.
So I was intrigued by your talk because phishing is one of those things that some people really love it as a tool for awareness building, and some people hate it as a tool for awareness building. So I was like, and you had some real serious depth in it, including having competed in the DerbyCon social engineering capture the flag. So that was interesting. So tell us a little bit about your talk.
So basically, I'm looking at it from a perspective of, I'm going to get it right out the gate and say that phishing your employees is not a complete awareness program. It's just a piece of the puzzle. And basically what I'm going to do is provide some quantitative things that organizations could do to implement phishing at little to no cost to their organization amongst their employees, as well as how to actually measure this, some lines to make sure you don't cross, and how to interpret those results and basically do better in the future, as opposed to just sending the same fish every time, or something that's so blatantly obvious a fish just to stroke your senior management's ego.
Having it be not too easy, because there is that balance of too easy versus too hard, and we've seen that like in regular security education, like you teach people something and then you ask them some questions about it, and how do you make those questions either not ridiculously hard or ridiculously easy, and that's a fine balance to watch. So how do you, with phishing, like how do you kind of draw that line of something that's like so sophisticated that you're pretty much going to get most people versus things that are so easy that almost no one will click on the link?
So to handle the barrier, I'm not a huge advocate of dropping payloads in the fish that I would actually send within an organization. In a previous life as a consultant, if the client asked for it, I would have. But when you're doing it for awareness, I am only a fan of basically trying to collect information or download a file, no payload, just track the file download. But to that end, with how easy or hard it is, I like to base my fish off of current events and fish that I've actually seen. So, for example, I do a thing called the flavor of the month. And just to run through a few of them so that you kind of understand where I'm going with it. In January, I may send some fish out talking about, click here to get your W-2. In February, it might be, click here to see who your secret admirer. Click here there's a problem with your taxes. Click here to ensure that you filed by April 15th. Mm-hmm. Get into the holiday season. So early November, Oprah's giving away free turkeys. You were selected. Here you go. Here's a Black Friday deal. Or one of the most sinister ones is, it's open enrollment season. Click here to update your insurance benefits.
Yep. That's just mean.
So taking those things into account, you can be realistic without being over the top or what I call throwing softballs. Personally, when I'm sending these, if I'm sending you to a website, it's probably going to have HTTPS, so looking for the green lock's not going to work. Mm-hmm. It's probably going to look very similar to a website you already know and trust. And I may have some grammar errors in it on purpose or maybe on accident, but I'm not going to be using the ultra broken 419 schemes that right. We're all too familiar with. Right. Because I think those are really just played out. They're kind of softballs. So I'll go that far. But then in probably my favorite fish, it was a 3-page fish. So they click the link, it goes to a website, it asks for their email and their password. They enter it, then it asks for 4 password reset questions. Then the 3rd page, it just says, what you're trying to access is closed. And it just goes on an infinite loop, and it makes the screen look like it's vibrating. And I did it on accident initially, but whenever I actually tested it, I was like, I like this. I'm going to leave it. So I've actually started adding it to all subsequent fish so that it shows something that's wrong on the screen to try to prompt the user to report. Because so the fisherman in me wants to beat my chest and say, I'm running at 40-something% click rates, because that's about 3 times the global average based on reports from like the DBIR and ITSR. But the security purist in me wants to get reported. I don't want to make it so obvious that I get reported early, but I want to get reported. I want users to say, there's something funny about this. I need to report this, to do a sanity check on it, and then ultimately get shut down.
Right. Huh. Okay. So you're kind of feeding into my next point. So, you said your click-through rate is about 40%. Even if it was 10%, that's often the logic people use to say that phishing is like quote unquote a waste of time, right? So I actually just ran a conference last week where I had somebody up on stage just totally anti-phishing, and their theory was that, well, some users are always going to click on things anyway, so maybe we should be doing other things to protect the system. So what would be your response to that?
Well, I would like to meet that speaker for one and have a nice fireside chat about it. I
can make that happen.
Let's do it. So with that being said, though, I mean, we could argue that the probability of cross-site scripting, SQL injection, or any other type of attack could have probably the same rate, but we treat them entirely differently. And we don't really hear so much about cross-site scripting and SQL injection attacks causing ransomware infections like we did with phishing. So the thing you've got to keep in mind, a defender has to be right every time. An attacker has to be right once. So if you're getting 10%, you're still getting in some way, shape, or form. So something that I actually do talk about in this specific presentation is how to integrate this with your incident response plan, because the vast majority of employees in your organization are not security professionals. Something that we fail as an industry at is expecting our users to think like us. Accountants and HR professionals don't think like security people. They're not designed to. They don't need to. It's not part of their job. Yes, they need to have some level of awareness about security, but we need to put the things in place. Like if they click a phish, how do they report it? Do they report it via email, which is probably not the right answer because you could presume that your email systems are compromised? Chat, smoke signal, carrier pigeon, voice, Morse code, whatever. Could be a phone call. You could walk over, whatever. What actions do you want them to take? Do you want them to disconnect from the network, unplug from the wall, power it down, restart it, lock the screen, do nothing? What? And, I wouldn't expect people outside of IT to even have a clue which direction to go. And depending on your incident response plan, depending on your organization maturity, there's really no right or wrong answer, because some organizations are going to say, power it down. We're just going to take it offline, reimage it, and go back. Others are going to say, leave it in place so that we can collect forensic evidence, analyze it, and get indicators of compromise for this. So understanding that I don't advocate pushing for phishing prevention. I push for identification of when it happens. So what if a user clicks a phish? I've gotten phish that I've nearly clicked myself. And the reality of it is, I don't care if a user clicks the phish. I want them to report it.
I see.
Because it's a lot easier to take one machine offline, do your analysis, do whatever you need to do, as opposed to translate several $100,000 into Bitcoin so that you can decrypt all your stuff.
Fair enough. So you're thinking of it more in terms of an awareness raising thing versus a trying to actually stop every phish.
Absolutely. With all aspects of security, I don't believe in prevention as an absolute concept, just because you could do everything that you possibly can, and you're still going to have someone that's going to barely glance at an email. It may be something that it's really that good, like some of those coming from Amazon, or air quotes, Amazon rather. People are going to click on it. It's human nature. Don't punish them for it. You want them to report it. You need to have an open door policy, non-punitive. And, granted, there is a line when someone will cross it. When they click every single phish or 17 in a row, okay, yeah, involve HR, do what you need to do. But for a user that just accidentally clicks a phish, whether it be a test or a real one, don't punish them. Yeah, make them do training. It might be a little painful, but don't beat them over the head, because something that we have to keep in mind with regards to the users, the people. They are the front lines of defense. They are the eyes and ears. They know what is normal more so than we do.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, so in your CFP, you mentioned about the recent Google Docs attack. I'm curious if you could just like share for people a little bit, just really high level, like what was the issue and how could training have stopped that attack from propagating?
So the Google Docs attack, it was a few months ago, because obviously with the CFP, those are months in advance. What it was, someone propagated an email. They took a screenshot of the Google Docs icon that comes at the bottom of an email whenever you get something via Google Docs. They attached a malicious link to it. When you clicked it, it actually took over your email account and spread like a worm to everyone in your contacts list. And basically, I don't know what the end game was supposed to be, but it got shut down pretty quickly. Kudos to Google with that. We don't typically think of them as an InfoSec company or a threat intelligence company, but in that case, they had quite a bit, and they had the means to be able to drop that hash across and get it taken care of.
Right.
So in terms of prevention, how could this have been prevented? If you hover over any icon or any link, you can see where it's really going. You can right-click it and copy the link location and then go and expand it. Like, I'm a huge fan of using shortened URLs like Bitly. You could go to a website that will actually expand that. Mm-hmm. If it looks fishy, if you're a security professional, you could always go to VirusTotal or any threat intelligence site like ThreatMiner, ThreatCrowd, OTX, anything like that, and search to see, hey, is this known to be malicious? If you're not a security professional, you could forward it to the security professionals and let them do that level of analysis. If you don't expect an email from someone containing Google Docs, you have no reason to open it, really.
Right.
Or just reach out to the person and be like, hey, did you mean to send this?
Right. Yeah, no, that one's particularly tricky because a lot of people that do use Google Docs are likely to maybe click the link just because they're used to, seeing that part of the interface. So that one's kind of nefarious. Absolutely. A lot of people use Google Docs now. So
I saw that come across several mailing lists, and it wasn't like non-security mailing list. It was like forensics and incident response list, local DEFCON chapter list, and I was like, wow, this is catching on. Ooh.
Right. Yep. So last one, you also mentioned in your bio that you are part of the DerbyCon's first social engineering capture the flag, and I always find those interesting. I haven't seen the DerbyCon one, but I've definitely seen the DEF CON one. Does it run similarly?
It's, from my understanding, identical. The only difference is we had fewer contestants. So I'm actually in the process of editing my audition video for the DEF CON 26 social engineering capture the flag. I'm trying to be the first person to win them both.
Nice.
But it's definitely a fun competition, and I mean a lot of great things came out of it. I mean, I'm going to be speaking in a few weeks at RSA on a similar topic. Basically, going to be stories from the trenches about the competition itself. So it's definitely an eye opener for people who are decision makers dealing with attack vectors such as social engineering, but it's also an eye opener in terms of, hey, here's some ways to really hone your skill in how you should be social engineering.
Right. I definitely use the DEF CON social engineering contest when I teach classes as a case study in, here's how screwed you can be if somebody really targets you, and it's a pretty effective eye-opening tool for people. A lot of people have never heard of it, so unless you're kind of
absolutely
a regular DEF CON attendee or a regular DerbyCon attendee, it might not be something that's on your radar. So I love it when I can expose new people to that. So that definitely played into
absolutely
having you come to the conference. So hoping that folks will stick around and chat with you about that, because it's definitely intriguing for people that have never seen it before.
Absolutely. And part of whenever I give any presentation, I'm a huge fan of anecdotes and storytelling more so than reading the slides. So for anyone that actually comes to this presentation, be prepared, because I will be providing scenarios. Obviously they'll stay very anonymous, from my experience when I was a consultant and doing social engineering engagements, as well as from the SECTF. And as an added bonus, after the presentation in the hallway, I'll actually do password inspections for everyone that wants it.
Great. That sounds awesome. So, all right, well, I'm looking forward to having you at Source Boston coming up in May, and it'll be on May 9th and 10th. And for those of you who want to continue the conversation, feel free to come on down to Source Boston, and we'll see you there.
Looking forward to it.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.